off the bat, you go with what the NTSB and FAA are stating. But then again, when you see the debris, and being in aviation for about a quarter century now, 25 years, that they were flying very fast. My guess is the pilot didn't know the terrain, and by the way the debris was spread out, they were cruising probably about 150 to 160 knots, and that type of aircraft, that's common.
Right. I know that the LAPD had grounded their aircraft that morning because of the bad weather. Is that a decision that the pilot can make, or is that something that maybe somebody else would be like, look, we got to make this tournament. Let's push it a little bit. Let's go cowboy on this. How are those things determined?
There could have been a break in the action. From my understanding was, too, that LAX airport was closed on Saturday due to heavy fog. This time of year, it's common out there in California that it is pretty warm, and obviously with the elements of the ocean and that causes, just like we get around here, we get the fog. They did fill out a load manifest, which is supposed to be done, especially for point A to point B for a certain type of flight, depending on what part it was under FAA regulation. The concern might have been is, do we have an opportunity right now? Let's get in and go, just like you said. And for a flight like that, which is probably routine 9 times out of 10, they probably went for broke.
Okay. Now, there was a couple of descriptions where they said that at this point they were flying and air traffic control was sort of leading them through some of the lower altitudes, and then they were ascending and going left. And that's when it went up, and then they believe, and again, these are just, some of the reports from the LA Times this morning, that's when it started to come down at a high rate of speed. And some people on the ground heard a sputtering. And while the investigation will often use people on the ground and what they heard, that's not always reliable. But some said they heard sputtering. What might that possibly be?
The sputtering could have been a last-second decision that probably caused either the engine to cut out or even the compressor to stop putting fuel back into the engine. Is just my guess. A split decision like that, you turn your blades with your stick, and it's just going to cut through the air, and that might not even been the engine. That could have been the blades cutting through the air. Same with the tail rotor.
Okay, so that noise could have just been caused by just a quick change in direction.
Quick change in direction, or it could have been after the impact.
So if something like that, you see what may have happened, are there other crashes similar that would make you say, well, it might be this?
Yeah, 9 times, like I said before, 9 times out of 10, it's pilot error, and we see through FAA records that 95% of accidents are pilot error and 5% are mechanical. So, looking at everything that's been going through, all the information that's been funneling in, it just seems like this pilot didn't know what he was doing, and fog is nothing to fool with. Period. Whether that aircraft could have been. It could have had infrared, it could have had infragreen, it could have had whatever. Those things are fully loaded. It's a hefty aircraft. It's a Cadillac of the sky, and the instruments on there aren't going to save you if you don't know how to fly through that type of elements of fog.
I was going to ask you about that. It's a Sikorsky S-76. We don't know anything about helicopters. What's the story on that helicopter? Is it a good one?
Oh, the safety record on those are unbelievable. Those things are built solid. They're highly recommended for 10, 15 people at a time. They carry a heavy max, and they obviously, if you heard, they were cruising at a good speed with that amount of people in there, and also with they probably had between 800 and 1,000 pounds of fuel in that aircraft. So they're made and built to fly fast, fly comfortably, and fly heavy.
Now, I wanted to ask you, too, as a pilot, and I mean, you take people over the falls all the time. Go ahead.
Yeah, our guys are military trained. These guys have been put through the ringer. They've seen action. They've been in action overseas, and these guys don't take that stuff lightly at all. And if you ask them today what they would thought about it, they would say it was a bad decision on the pilot, no question about it. But with our restrictions of our airspace, we can't fly. We're very heavily restricted. If the clouds are below 2,500 feet, the visibility is below 3 miles, that aircraft is not leaving the ground. Okay. There's no need for sightseeing, joyriding, anything like that. Safety is our number one issue.
Now, and we've obviously there's been another helicopter crash here recently with the death of Mark Croce, and I mean, it just has to put a little bit of a little bit of scare, I guess, for people with helicopters. What do you have to say to that?
It's not. I wouldn't say scared, because then you're going to start having people backing off. And from a business standpoint, that's the last thing you want to do.
Right.
Is still fearing someone and not show up at your operation. But accidents do happen, unfortunately, and it depends on one. Like I said before, it's majority of the time, 9 out of 10, it's pilot error. The other's mechanical. And with Mark's incident, which God rest his soul, he was a great man, and I've got to know him quite a while over the few years, and it's his must have been a freak occurrence, because that guy he knew how to fly. There's no question in my mind he knew what he was doing, and I'm waiting to see that report as well, because there's just something not right there.